I am Jyn Yates. Welcome to LRS102.com, The Walrus, Louisville's rock stream, and of course it's Give the Lady Drummer Some Fridays. And I'm super pumped today to have Mindy Abovitz on my show. How are you doing, Mindy?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic, and I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time, and I've been trying to get you on the show, so today's the best day ever. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday, Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, and I took a little lead from you, and decided on Fridays, because we air Monday through Friday, that I would interview nothing but all female drummers on the show.
Yeah.
So welcome. So you basically, we'll start with a little history, just in case people listening don't know who you are, which they should, and hopefully they will after this interview. But you started a group, a magazine called Tom Tom Magazine. And I personally ran into this magazine years ago, not only online, but also saw it in music stores. And it was as big as the Rolling Stone, the old school Rolling Stones, which I thought was super cool and made it stand out. So I would buy these, and it was all about female drummers. And I was like, wow, I've got to figure out how to be a part of this, right? And then our paths have crossed along the way here and there online, as well as just recently I've been helping you all do some music teaching on your Instagram. So I'm very thankful for that. Thank you for the magazine and everything. And I kind of want you to tell me a little background about how that idea came to fruition.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a long-ish story, so cut me off or, anyhow. So
you've got an hour.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. I'm going to fill it with how this happened.
Cool.
So I've been playing music since I was like 14 years old when I discovered Riot Girl, Bikini Kill, Heavens to Betsy, Bratmobile. Those bands really spoke to me as a teenager because I grew up in quite a big family with a lot of very powerful guys in the family. I also grew up Orthodox Jewish, which has elements of gender like kind of infused in the whole thing, like what girls can and cannot do, what boys can and cannot do. So I hit I hit puberty, and then I find Riot Girl, which is basically this unapologetic genre of music where women are called to, come to the front. Girls to the front is the motto of the Riot Girl movement. And there's really loud, noisy instrument playing, not necessarily proficient in your instrument, but definitely have a message. So that spoke to me, and I learned everything I could about Riot Girl when I was a teenager. Grabbed a bass guitar, started a Riot Girl band. Fast forward 5 or so years later, I'm gravitating towards everyone's drum set at Gainesville, Florida, where I'm living and going to school at the University of Florida. My best friend takes note, buys me a drum set, says, here's your drum set, this is your practice bass, I'm your bandmate. And that was another kind of epic shift for me in my life, from not having a drum set one day to the following day having a bandmate, a place to play my drums, and my very own Percussion Plus red kit. I was like,
wow.
all right, life is different now. So that was kind of like before the Percussion Plus, after the Percussion Plus, right?
I love that.
Divide my life that way.
By the way, I am a huge fan of Riot Girl, so we will definitely spin some Bikini Kill and stuff like that on this show. I love Kathleen. Is it Kathleen Hannah?
Hannah, yeah.
Hannah, yeah. I suck with names, but yes, I was a huge fan. As soon as I heard that Rebel Girl, I was like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Unbelievable. Like, it's girl power, but also like girl love. Like, all that music has taught me so much. It's taught me to be in support of my girlfriends, my best friends, to be the most badass person I can be, to be incredibly confident regardless of the situation, and to not take shit from anyone, because in some of Kathleen Hanna's lyrics and Riot Girl lyrics in general, there's a lot of calling out on some bullshit. Some very intense things like sex abuse to just let me stand in the front row at the punk show. There's, it kind of covers the gamut anyway.
Yeah. So, I love that, by the way. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. People always ask me when they say, when they listen to my solo electronic stuff, because it's totally different than everything else that I do. And I use my music platform to get my anger out and to poke fun at things and to call things out like I see it. And just recently, I'm about to drop one called LGBTQAI+, and it's alphabet soup. It's all about the pronouns, right? And I'm calling it like it is because I've been out for 25 plus years. So I've been out for a long time, you know, and learned to use my voice and learned to not take any shit the same that you did. And they always say, what is your influences with your, your solo stuff? And I say, well, it's somewhere in between like early hip hop, like The Message, you know, all those early Salt and Pepper. Like I was all about that kind of stuff, even though I was a drummer. And somewhere between there and that 80s, 90s female angst rock, because that kind of, just like you were saying, it really touched me. And I was just kind of like, you know what? In my own stuff, I can say whatever the fuck I want to say. And I love
exactly.
it. And I can call the community for what it is, or I can say things that I might not normally say in everyday thing. And I love to use this as a reference on the show. But, you know, Bob Marley wrote a song about shooting a sheriff. Can you imagine if that song came out today? The Dixie Chicks can put a dude who beat their girlfriend in the car and go drown him. We can do anything we want in music. You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes it so fascinating. The artistic side is amazing. So anyway, I love to use that reference, and I love that we have that connection because
we also have a hip hop connection because I grew up in Miami and I was really connected to hip hop as well. I can't the trajectory from what I do now from Riot Girl to what I do now makes it's a clearer path. But hip hop 1000% informed the way I think about the world and what I like about music and my confidence level. As did like 60s music, which my dad was really into. That was my gateway drug to just loving music, simpler music, you know. Anyway, I didn't want to leave it out, but I totally love hip hop too. And I was listening to hip hop and Riot Girl at the exact same time when I was forming myself, I think. Can
I ask you how old you are? Because we have to be close in age, I would think.
I'm 40. I just turned 40.
Okay, and I am 41, so I'll be 42 this year. So we're right at, I was like, we have the same influences. It's crazy. I love that. Mindy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mindy, you're also based in New York City, and I want you to kind of take us up till current to fairly current to when you start the magazine. What was the influence behind that?
So I moved to New York when I was 22, something like that, and I was a new drummer. But I had come from Gainesville, Florida, which was a pretty rampant music scene. Like there was Hot Water Music and Less Than Jake, and everyone I knew was in a band, but 99% of those people were guys. So by the time I got my drum set in Gainesville, I was really ready to go. I was ready to be loud, to say what I needed to say, to back a band of women. So me and my 4 best friends started a band, all female. And I just booked us at all these places, at the record shop I was working in, and Civic Media Center, which is like a magazine info shop, like an activist space. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I really wanted to be in a band and be really loud for a long time before I actually was allowed to be, or before I got my drum set. So I moved to New York City with my drum set with a lot of that energy. I started a one-person band called More Teeth. Then I volunteered at Rock Camp for Girls as a drum instructor, which was a huge leap because I was completely self-taught. And so I essentially learned the rudiments as I was teaching them to the girls, which is a lot of people's story. And then fast forward to being 29 years old as an audio engineer at East Village Radio. And I had this moment where I looked around and I was like, wow, I think actually nothing has changed since the Riot Girl movement for my people, which is other women musicians. And I thought, I would like to be a seismic change. I would like to be part of a seismic change. The Riot Girl movement to me at that time felt like a seismic change, and it was. Mm-hmm. But it did not change like the entire culture. And I was now a part of the entire culture in New York City. I was just embedded in this very misogynistic music scene. Yeah. on every level. I was doing live sound at venues, and I was doing, for my day job, live sound engineering at the radio station. I was in a band. I had been touring. I threw shows at my house, and and I was volunteering at Rock Camp for Girls. At every level, there was misogyny, and I was like, right, okay, this isn't okay. This isn't okay for the 15-year-old girls coming up right now. Mm-hmm. It's not okay for me in the industry. But now I'm in a position of slight power, and then I'm slightly older. I have more confidence. I understand the internet, which is the first place I stepped into. And I have a clear vision on how I could possibly promote the hell out of these women I know to create the hype that we had so needed, and that was so sorely lacking. Like, even since the Riot Girl movement also embraced no media. They really weren't excited about kind of sending their message everywhere, which was very impactful for obviously a lot of us who were a part of that movement or watched that movement like I did or listened to the records. But what I think that resulted in as a 29-year-old living in New York City is people weren't as affected by it. The mass wasn't as affected by it as I wished they had been. And so, like, friends of mine were discovering Riot Girl for the first time at 30 years old. And I was like, okay, cool. I love Riot Girl, and it is massively important, but we need to step out as professional. We need to step out as musicians that the industry cannot ignore anymore. They need to know we're consumers. Existing consumers could be consumers. We need to be glossy, important, you know. So anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I love that story. I'm just fascinated by you because I'm like, what a great idea. I love that you use your platform to help other people. And I have been doing the same thing as I've gotten older. You know, one thing that I love is obviously teaching. So I was like, there's nothing more cool than handing tools to someone else and giving them a platform and then just letting them fly. You know what I mean? And now I stand back and I've got kids out on tour, you know, and unfortunately they didn't get to go this year, but before all the coronavirus stuff, I had a kid who I taught when he was 8 to 10 years old, and he's now in his 20s, and he just got picked up to tour with Pearl Jam and the Pixies. And they were doing this whole, you know, tour, and then he got picked up with Jimmy Eats World and a bunch of other bands, and I'm just sitting back here as a teacher going, holy shit, you know, like, wow, that's amazing. That's exactly why I do what I do, you know. So I love that you started that magazine and used your platform to help other women, you know what I'm saying? I also kind of wanted to ask you about that in particular, because we talk about on Tom, you talk about how, you know, non-gender conformist, and I've always said my gender has always confused people my whole life. Even when I was 3 and 4 years old, I was on a school bus and the school driver asked me what my name was, son, you know, and I get sir all the time.
Wow.
Even almost on a daily basis when I was out and about in regular life, people would be standing right in front of me, looking right at me, calling me sir, and I was always confused by that. But growing up, I always considered myself a boy trapped in a female body. Now, some people say that's trans. Some people say that's, you know, some people get confused about what it is. And I just say, when they ask me my pronouns, I say my name is Jyn Yates. That's what you can call me. Whatever you want to think I am, that's what you can think I am. But, you know, I've been out and very vocal in the community for a long time now. And prides have mostly been my circuits across the country, you know, with other female artists and stuff like that. So I kind of love that you talk about, you know, non-conformist as well as being a feminist, because I feel like I'm kind of stuck in that place too. And there's some gray areas in there that get a little confusing sometimes.
There's major gray areas. So I'm going to talk a little bit about like why we are constantly hammering away and saying we're a magazine about female drummers and GNC drummers. So we used to be a magazine about female drummers, full stop. For reasons that I have not yet fully investigated or been able to produce like a very accurate report on, but I have my own personal opinions. The female and GNC drummer scene is incredibly queer. I would say there's like 50% of the female and GNC drummers I know identify as queer in some way. Mm-hmm. And I have my reasons for why I think that is, potentially, but I also would really love for someone to think about it more in depth. And I'd love to publish something about, the community. Anyhow, through publishing the magazine, it became apparent, and through having the website and everything, and just covering lots and lots of drummers, it became apparent that our community's gender permutation is way bigger than that singular word female, girl, woman. That doesn't cover a lot of us. So while GNC isn't perfect, it at least opens up the conversation / opens up everyone's personal, basically the conversation, like what you just said. My name's Jyn. You can use whatever gender pronoun you want, right? Some other folks are like, my name is this, and I want to be, my gender pronoun is they. One of our instructors this week is a perfect example, right? And the conversation is still so new in our society. GNC is just this blanket, let's talk. Gender non-conforming. You're somewhere on the spectrum. You're not plugged into this binary system. And that's so true of so many of the folks that we that are in the community / we cover, that it was doing a major disservice by slapping the word female on top of everybody, because it's not true. It's not
right.
It doesn't mirror us. And also what that meant is we changed our tagline. I think it was like 5 years ago or longer. Now, we used to be Tom Tom Magazine, a magazine about female drummers. Now we're Tom Tom Magazine, drummers, music, feminism.
I love that, by the way. I noticed that the other day, and I love that tagline.
And that's to be gender inclusive, honestly. I also started Hit Like a Girl. I started it with 2 older guys in the industry, Phil and Dave. And first year, we had a conversation. Who can compete? And I said, anyone who considers themselves a female or a GNC person is welcome to compete in Hit Like a Girl contest. It was many, many conversations about why and do they agree. And it was essentially, I said, this is not negotiable for me. This is how it is, or I'm out. And awesomely, they were on board, and they now work on explaining to all of their people why that is, why that needs to be. We just eliminated a judge the other day because the judge wasn't cool with it. And I'm like, cool, we're not cool with you.
I love the way you think.
I don't want anyone listening to think that there isn't a conversation that can be had. There always is. The door is wide open. However, we are inclusive. So if you are not, the chances are we're going to ask you to step aside.
Yeah. I think honestly too, in a time period like we are in today in 2020, I mean, we have broken those barriers and bashed those glass ceilings in, and and there is the room. We're making it a conversation, and that's what you have to do.
There's so much more that needs to be discussed. GNC doesn't mean anything. I mean, It does, but it doesn't mean like your answer. What it means is ask Jyn what Jyn prefers. That's what it means. Let's have conversations with each other.
Well, I cannot wait to send you my new solo track, LGBTQAI plus Alphabet Soup, because what I do is I go through and it's a comedy song, and I really want to eventually make a video with Alphabet Soup, Rainbow Alphabet Soup. But I go through and I talk about the L's and the B's and the G's, and then is the Q the same as the G, and the T's there's no bathrooms for you.
We don't have enough letters in the alphabet.
Well, and I keep talking about that, how like the other letters feel sad that they're left out. They're being discriminated against because they're not.
They'll be in.
Yeah, plus you're gonna actually love that track. It's one of my favorites, and it's got a great bass line to it, and it's just fun. But yeah, I'm just trying to open up the conversation because I am in that community. I feel like I openly talk about it on my show. I openly talk about my sexual experiences, about my being just as confused. I thought I was a boy, for years, and then was like, and then ironically enough, on my side, I ended up on a book of women drummers, and I was still trying to figure out, what am I? I don't know what I am. You know what I mean? And I still confuse myself with the gender stuff. So I just know what my body likes. I know what I look like on the outside does not match what I am on the inside. And I'm like, whatever you call that, but I'm willing to have a conversation.
It does match. I think it's our society's conception of what is on the outside versus
right.
And our language capacity, what we're working with right now, like your song speaks to. It's like we don't have enough words. We're not listening enough. And that's like what I think, that's not just in the queer community. That's in, with almost every way we are different from each other, we need to be listening to each other.
Right. You're so right too. And sticking together, I talk a lot about that, and you talked a lot about that. When women stick together, women are we get, I guess, imaged as catty and emotional. But, when I went to Michigan Women's Music Festival, and I love to talk about this too, I was the house drummer there. So I got to network with all these artists from all over the world. And there were over 10,000 women that came to this festival, and it was all run by women. Once I had come from a background that had strong, powerful females in it that were great. But I had never seen anything quite like that coming from a small town where, they had everything laid out. They had nurses, they had healthcare, they had, childcare, they had, they would feed you every day. And the one thing that stuck out to me was a $20 bill got dropped on the ground at this music festival that went on for a week. And it said, somebody had written a note and it said, if you drop this $20, here it is, pick it up. And they put it under a rock. And that $20 stayed there all week. And once I saw that, that was a profound moment for me to go, wow, maybe women should really rule the world. And everybody was so nice and so uplifting. And when I left there, my spirit was just, my heart was open. It's hard to explain. But after that particular moment in my life, via music, then I, came home with a whole new perspective on, wow, I should really try to get girls to stick together, and we have to do this because we have power in numbers and we can move mountains,
I think I had the same experience, like physically at the Rock Camp for Girls, Willie Mae Rock Camp for Girls here in New York City. The way you're describing the fest, like year after year volunteering there and seeing the whole thing, being all of the instructors are women. At the time, the GNC was not a conversation that people are having openly. Now it is at Rock Camp. But at the time, it was Rock Camp for Girls, and all the instructors were female. All the campers were girls. It blew my mind to watch this, interaction. I was still looking for bandmates in New York City who identified as female. I was like, where are they? And then here I enter this building with women in the bass room being like, here's how you do this lick. And then just every room filled with another proficient musician teaching the next generation of girls. It's similar to how you're describing Mishfest. Just like, this is the utopia I was waiting for, and it exists. It's possible. It feels great in here. The world should be like this.
Yes.
It's only 1 week long. So how do we extend this?
Right. Yeah. You have to actually prep yourself to go back into
100%.
The outside world, because you get it's just so euphoric, there's just nothing like it. I highly recommend anybody listening, if you haven't been to a women's music festival, definitely go do that. I was super fortunate to get to play a lot of these music festivals across the country with women artists and network. And man, I've met some of the coolest people. That's where I met JD Sampson. You probably heard of them. That was part of that whole Riot Girl thing, and Bitch, an Animal. Bitch is my girl, and Melissa Farrick.
There was with GNC though, and Mish Fest, and I think JD was at the helm of that to some degree. There was an issue about who gets to go to the Women's Michigan Festival.
Right. Yes, and it's no longer, but there are other women music festivals. It was the longest running up until recently. Now National Women's Music Festival kind of took over, and a lot of it was because of the trends and being inclusive with that. So I feel like we've made leaps and bounds. I was going to these festivals feeling like I was that, and they were telling me that couldn't be there, and I was just like, I was kind of like one of those, I don't know what's going on. I'm just coming to play drums and be cool and drool all over everybody that's there. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I met some of the most amazing females there. The chicks from Betty, I'm so great friends with them. I love those girls. Julie Wolfe and Sarah Lee, Sarah Lee was with the B-52s. I mean, you just network with all these amazing female musicians. I also wanted to ask you a little bit about your gear and stuff. So you ended up with all these, with this drum, and then you ended up in New York City. And I've been to New York City a ton. I love New York City. I could never live there because I'm a country girl at heart, and I love a farm and to fish and all that good stuff. But I found it like incredibly hard every time I was in New York City because I always was having to find a drum set or I carted cymbals through blizzards in Times Square on the subway, you know, and it just seemed like a whole different animal. Where here in Kentucky, I just throw my drums in my car, I drive to a venue, I play it, you know, and I come home. It was so much of a madhouse for me in New York City. I just cannot imagine being a female drummer trying to survive there, even though it is, you know, it's a cesspool of all these amazing musicians.
My entire drumming career was here. It's insane. Like, it's a completely insane place to cut your teeth. And I think about how a lot of women's choices when they're in their 20s and 30s, they have kids. They have, like, let's say 1 kid or 5 kids. And I'm like, right, the amount of energy that I used up carrying my drum set up and down basement stairs at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. after the show is what I think it would be equivalent to chasing like 4 3-year-olds around. Like, I had so much energy for drumming, and that energy was 1,000% expired here in New York City. Like, it's so hard to be a musician here on every level, psychically, financially, and then physically. But my desire to be in bands, to make music, to share my music with my friends, to witness other people's music was so large that I immersed in every part of it. Like I was saying, I was running sound at the Cake Shop and Public Assembly. I was, that was live sound for shows. Then I was doing like day work, running engineering bands and DJs at East Village Radio during the day, running shows at my house on the weekend for touring bands and local bands. I was volunteering at Rock Hymn for Girls, volunteering at Vibe Songmakers. I ended up working at Main Drag Music, which is an incredible music shop here in New York City. I kind of did whatever I could to be surrounded by music, and it becomes all that you know. Mm-hmm. So my friend Fiona Campbell, she was in a band called the Coolies, and I met her in like 2004 or 5 or something like that. I think she played at my house, and she was coming from New Zealand, and she was in an all-girl band that Converse was endorsing, and at the time their prime minister, and she's possibly still their prime minister, I'm not sure, sorry, mm-hmm. But their prime minister believed in the arts, and so bands were given grants, legitimate ones, to live off of, make albums with. So her and her 3 bandmates, all women, were just, she's like, yeah, we're making an album. I'm like, yeah, but what are you doing? No, we're making an album. Yeah, but what's your day job? No, we're making an album. I'm like, what? And we don't have to pay for our practice space, and we're blah, blah, blah. And I was just like drooling everywhere. And she's like, she said to me that she thinks it's cooler to be a musician in New York. And I was like, okay, please explain.
Right. They all think that, but
tell me why. She's like, because you have to work for it. Because you guys don't take for granted your practice space hours. You're actually playing when you get in there. And I was like, wow, she's right. Mm-hmm. Our practice space costs us money. We have 3 hours in there on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and we're in there and we're fucking playing the second we get in. And if you work that hard for something, you mean it. And she moved to New York, and she was in the Vivian Girls. I'm trying to remember the other
super band. Cool.
Yeah, now she's back in New Zealand. She's gonna end up giving us a small tutorial on how to like muffle your own drums during this pandemic, like make your own.
Great idea.
She's amazing. And most recently she tour managed Heinz, but she's this incredible drummer. Anyways, that was the trajectory of like her like making me realize that while I desperately wished I could just play music, that living in New York City and having this major grind was actually part of it. It was part of what made it so urgent.
I will say this, being a female drummer, if you're wanting to seek that out professionally, it is not for the weak, so to
soft
speak.
Hearts.
You touched on several things. One, loading your equipment. I mean, I'm like you. I've drug 300 pounds of equipment across the country in the United States with a 26-inch kick drum. I don't know why I decided I was going to do that thing. And just my stand box alone is almost 300 pounds. So, you can't be weak. And if you've got to drag
a dead body.
Yeah. It kind of, well, I mean, it feels like, I don't know what a dead body feels like, but if I could only assume and imagine. But yeah, you know, and not only that, but I talk a lot about, if you're going to be a professional musician, just period, you've got to be a hustler, and you've got to have your brain into every facet, and you've got to have your hands in different things if you want to eat. So if I had to make it just alone on gigs, I would never have been a professional musician. I just was very fortunate that my dad was a drummer and loved it so much and put me on a kit. And you know, I was never, ever around anything without a drum set there, you know, and I was always doing 3 or 4 bands and 3 or 4 records and working a 9 to 5 and just never sleeping. You know, now in my 40s, I love to sleep because I'm getting older and things are getting a lot harder. And
drummers are different, though. I think drummers are.
We are.
Like and I've also spent a lot of time thinking about how we're different. But if there's any one musician that I would like to be trapped on an island with, it's drummer. It's a drummer.
I agree.
Sorry, guitar players, vocalists, keyboard players, everyone else. Like, we have a special quality that either we come to the table with or that we learn through being a drummer. And a lot of it boils down to, we're, at the end of the day, pretty selfless. Mm-hmm. And we're really ready. We're there. We're like ready to help. And I think it's because we have so many parts to our kit. And there's just a lot that goes into moving the kit around, literally.
Right. You almost have to be an engineer. You know what I'm saying? And we have a grit and a grind, I feel like, that we can dig deep. We have this energy deep down that we can pull from. You know, if you're out there and you've run a marathon and you come back and you've got to play a slow song, you have to control that internal energy, and vice versa. If I'm tired and I have to play a punk song at 200 beats per minute, I've got to find that energy. So I feel like we have this energy that, you know, deep down, and most all other drummers I've met have that same drive and grit. And it seems like you do too.
We can pull through if you need us, I think, is what you're getting at. And it's true. We're not afraid of hard work. The drums are hard work. They're hard work to carry everywhere. They can be hard work to play, you know, and if you're there, it says something about your character, and or it defines your character just by playing it, I think.
Yeah, okay, so random question, because I get to ask random questions on my show. I have to know your sign because I have in my mind what I think you are, and then I want to see.
What do you think I am?
Well, I definitely think you might be a little fire sign, but you definitely got fire in your chart, I feel like, somewhere.
Okay, well, I am a Scorpio.
Oh, I love a Scorpio. Very nice. So you're a water sign then.
With Leo rising.
With an air, with the fire rising, there's your fire.
I think my Leo side is what people most experience at first. And then when they find out I'm a Scorpio ever since the 90s, people are like, stay away. I'm like, it's all right. I'm a nice Scorpio.
Well, I'm a Virgo. So most Virgos love Scorpios. In fact, some of my best friends that I've had for years, Scorpios, my first true love was a Scorpio. And we're still great friends to this day. In fact, she wanted to have kids, and we were in our early 20s. And I did not want to have kids. I had not pursued my love of music yet. So I sent her on her way and was like, you know, one day you'll thank me. And today she's moved to Nashville, has her own little family. And she thanks me, and she owns 2 successful businesses. And you'll love this story because we love to joke with each other about it. But I told her when she left, she was like, I will never carry drums again, ever in my life. And I recently bought her daughter a drum set, and she sent me pictures of her little daughter in her room playing the drums. And I said, see, you're going to be carrying drums the rest of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. But she still comes to my gigs. I love a Scorpio. Y'all are very sweet. And I think you guys get mislabeled a lot. Because I think personally y'all are really deep and really intelligent, you know, and Scorpio rules a lot of really interesting things. Scorpios rule a lot of the dark stuff, you know, so you'll kind of get labeled that. I have what I call the scorpion sting. That's what y'all do. You know, every now and then you'll get a smack from a Scorpio, but you just got to know how to deal with it. But my moon sign is Aries, so I'm fiery emotionally, you know, and I think that's where a lot of my drumming comes from. I try to channel that into my drums. I also love to mention that I was born pretty much around the same day that Keith Moon died. So I love to say that I inherited a little bit of his manic Crazy fun behind the kit. Not as crazy, but I love me some Keith Moon. So, okay. So here another fun random question. I love to ask just random questions. Who's your favorite Beatle?
Ooh, it's gonna be Ringo. I mean,
right.
It's gonna be Ringo, but that's just because I think I have fantasized being him a lot. It would just be a dream to play behind those guys. Like,
no kidding.
Yeah, I guess that I would definitely say him. I feel like envious of all the places he's been, all the recording studios he's been in, and a dream to be in a band with such talented people.
Heck yeah. You know, the Beatles, I teach a lot of Beatles. They really do. You know, in today's society, music has changed so much. Back then, they were considered rock and roll. Today, people listen and they're like, that's not really rock, you know, if they've listened to like Lamb of God and stuff like that. But, you know, as far as the Beatles, they had some amazing songs. I love to teach their different time signature stuff. You know, they're just super interesting guys. By the way, I was at Super Bowl earlier this year in Miami, and Paul McCartney was 15 foot behind me.
No way.
Yeah, along with I kept walking out going, what are all these security guards doing? Because, you know,
wow,
trying to take it in. I was there supporting my Kansas City Chiefs, who won this year. And
you noticed that Shakira played the drums?
Yes, she did. She did. In fact, here's what's so funny is I had went to Bermuda to do a drum clinic, and then we had a private jet, and we took the private jet over to Miami to the Super Bowl.
Sounds great.
It was amazing. And so I had no idea what I was in for. And of course, everybody on my social media was like, why are you on a private jet? Why are you going to the Super Bowl? And then they see Shakira playing drums. So I got probably 50 messages going, are you teaching Shakira? Like, are you playing? They couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to have fun. But I did get to see Lizzo and Beyonce and Gaga. You know, I'm not a fangirl, but I kind of geeked out over Paul McCartney being 15 foot from me. I was going to ask you that question too. It's a great random question to ask. You're kind of like me in a way. We can relate that I've been around a lot of very famous celebrities and major musicians in my day. And I always keep my composure because they're regular people just like we are. But have you ever had a moment with somebody where you just really on the inside were like geeking out over someone? And if so, who was it?
That's a great question. I do actually, I almost overcompensate for wanting a celebrity to feel comfortable. So when I'm around celebrities or people who are known, I play it down so hard because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. You know, they're average people. Also, it's my job as a journalist and a person who runs a journalism company, a media company, to make sure that all of our subjects are treated with total respect and they get the anonymity they want. So I've had to drill in for like a decade with some of the writers who maybe overstep this a bit, that just because you're interviewing them doesn't mean you can be in a band with them. That's like been a thing that's like pretty big. So I overplay just treating someone just absolutely like someone I would, like anyone else I would treat. And then I geek out all the time. When I see a celebrity that I'm into, and let's say there's no reason why I'm supposed to see them, I just clam up and like usually like run the other way or just stare at them from like the corner because it's a continuation of that. I don't want them to feel awkward. I don't want them to feel like, oh, I just, I'm just here because you're a celebrity. And I guess the most recent person I can think of is Phoebe Robinson, who's a comedian. She's from Two Dope Queens. And I saw her comedy. And then I was already a fan. And then afterwards she was outside the club in Brooklyn. And I was just like, I can't. And my partner's like, go say hello. I was like, no, I can't. Like, go say hi. She's right there. I'm like, no, I can't. And I was like 5 feet from her staring. I'm like, I can't go there. How could I go there? What would I say? And that's literally how I am. And anytime I see someone that I'm a fan of, and I just run away at the end.
That's a total Scorpio thing to do too, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been studying astrology for about 20 years now, and I love to read tarot and all that fun stuff. And I'm just really into it. My grandmother was too. I'm the complete opposite. I run straight up to them like, "Hi, my name is Jyn Yates." You know what I mean? They're probably like, "Who the hell is this weirdo?" You know. I loved meeting Sheila. Yeah, I told you that story already on your thing. That was pretty cool. I did once run into Mary Tyler Moore, though, unexpectedly at a random food court in a mall in Kentucky, of all places. And I did have the gumption to go over and say, "Hi, Miss." I said, "Are you Mary Tyler Moore?" I was a lot younger. And she said, "Yes, I am." And she had on this little sun hat, you know, and it's so cute. And I said, "My name's Jyn." I didn't ask for an autograph or a picture or anything, you know, but I just said hi and all that. It's kind of fun in being in the position that you and I are both in. And I'm just only comparing because, you know, we're in positions a lot of times to be around celebrities, and sometimes I geek out. It just depends. But as far as like, you know, meeting Tim McGraw and stuff like that, they were so cool, you know? And it's just kind of an interesting position for you to be in because you have a magazine that's had some of my all-time favorite female drummers in it. You know, Caroline Azar, I think you did some work with her too. I'm a big fan of hers. And Dawn Richardson, do you know her well by chance?
I do. Carla Azar, is that you mean who plays for Jack White and has her own Project Cadillacs? Yeah. I'm very fortunate in that. So how I've imagined myself over these years, and I think it's evolved as such, is I imagine myself as loosely these folks' managers. So I cover them in the magazine, and then if they're lesser known or if they're very well known, I have spent my time getting them endorsements or getting them in advertising or getting them to the next place in their career or on a tour. That's been my job that I've taken on because I know these people. I tell their story. Not myself, a writer of tom-toms will tell their story, and then I'll learn who they are. And then later when I'm speaking to Roland or ProMark or Zildjian or Sabian and they're asking for something, or if L'Oreal calls and says they need a drummer for a commercial, I can think of who they need or what they need. And there's been books, like the book you're talking about. There's been movies. And I think I take a lot of joy from both bringing someone who's been in the shadows for a long time into the forefront and connecting them, and also someone who's really big, like Sheila, and connecting her to Apple, the Apple Store, whatever needs to happen, you know? And so I think I've built trust with a lot of these drummers, and some of them have evolved into friendships. And so I really I know that these people are celebrities, but I don't think that I deserve their friendship or their trust. I gain it like I would with anybody else. And if I have done a good job, business. What'd you say?
I said it's a business relationship.
It's a business relationship. I keep it as professional as I possibly can, unless or until that person wants to bring it to the next level. And then if I want to, then I do too. Right. So I'm friends with Susie Ibarra, and I'm friends with Carla Azar. Sheila's phone number is in my phone. I do not. I love that. Her. Yeah. I will not call her. I will not give her phone number away. Bobby Hall the other day, Bobby Hall's manager said I am an important part of their life. And that was like huge for me. I was like, what? And they say they trust me. I'm like, that's amazing. I will not.
That's what you want. So that means you've done your job. That's why we love you, Mindy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay. So before we wrap it up, I want to also talk about what you're doing with TomTom right now. Obviously, you've got the Instagram kicking. You're doing daily lessons with female instructors all over the world, myself included. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about that. Tell our listeners how they can tune in and where you're trying to go with that platform.
So currently, as we're all stuck indoors, we were thinking about what can we do, and then what's the next level of TomTom. So what we're doing currently is at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every weekday. We are presenting a different female or GNC drum instructor from around the world. That instructor is sharing something they know, a skill, a technique, a tip, for about 10 or 15 minutes for free on our Instagram Live. And then I'm asking them some questions about their life and leaving it open for the viewers to ask questions about that instructor's life and or the lesson. We're encouraging folks to visit every instructor's page, get to know them, take a lesson from them. The intention is that we talk about female and GNC drummers, beat makers, and producers. We do that already. So now we're introducing this plethora of instructors who have different skills, different things to offer, in an effort to both skill share, because these instructors are offering their time for free, but also to encourage folks to further their own drumming and learn from a female or GNC drum instructor. It's just another level of breaking down what people think women and GNC folks can do. We are not only drummers, we're also drum instructors. We're that proficient in our craft. And we're that confident, and we can teach you something, right? So for me, this is a very complete picture. And what I'm hoping, we're calling it Chops TV, and what I'm hoping it evolves into in the future is potentially its very own platform, its very own music academy potentially. And I have some ideas for that. It's going to involve tech. So we're looking for a great tech partner for that. And it's also a concept that we're working on every day on the Instagram. So we're just kind of hashing it out. See what happens.
I love that. Well, you've actually taught me quite a bit about, I'm on Instagram, but I'm not super fluent in it. I just try to post videos. I've been I'm kind of like you in a way that I started in media when I was 16 years old and worked in radio from then until current full time. And I also did a stint in television for Warner Brothers, where I was a video editor and an audio editor. And then in my 30s, I decided to leave all that and pursue. I was covering news, politics. I was covering politics for radio news, beside Mitch McConnell and people like that. And I decided that it compromised everything that I stood for, regardless of how big my paycheck was. And I decided to leave that and pursue my love of music, and took about a $40,000 pay cut to start my own business. So now we're about 12 years in, and I've been teaching, running Jyneration Studios, which is an online teaching business, but also a video production, audio production services. So at age 30, I went back to college and got an IT degree in network administration and software, in case the music thing didn't work out. So for this exact moment when we're dealing with the coronavirus and we can't play out as musicians. So right now, more than any time other in our past, it's all about the instructors sitting at home showing you things. It's a time for us to learn. If you've got nothing better to do, you can take online classes now. You know what I'm saying? There's so many cool things that we're seeing come out of this. It's not just a downer. And I love that the fact that you're doing the online lessons, because even though I'm a teacher, I'm always a student first, because I say this to every student I have: you will never know 100% everything there is to know about music. You'll never know every song across the world, because there's so many you probably don't even know about. So student first, teacher second. And I think, now more than ever, if you've got crazy kids going stir crazy at home, if you're an adult who has a kit that's sitting around that you haven't played in a long time, if you're someone who has a drum sitting around, or even a pair of sticks, now you can seek these people out online and take lessons. And I learned stuff from going to your TomTom Magazine Instagram and watching, these other instructors do different things with.
I'm learning every day. It's so cool. Today is, today it'll be before this airs, but then you can watch it, like Jyn was saying, afterwards on our Instagram. You can just click on our logo. Bianca Richardson is going to be teaching us how to incorporate the SPDSX into our kit. So electronics.
I saw that. And I'm an electronics geek. I just don't have my equipment here. So I'm definitely going to be tuning into that before this airs. But like you said, you can go back and it does leave it up for I think 24 until you do the next live one. So pay attention to that. You can also go to TomTomMagazine.com.
It's all TomTom Mag. So TomTomMag.com, TomTom Mag on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, blah, blah, blah.
Cool. And, Mindy, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan of yours. And, and if you have, I know you're the Miss Queen networker of the female drumming and GNC groups. So if you have other females that you think would be awesome to interview on this show about their career, about drums, about anything, let me know. And then also, I would love to have you as a guest, fairly regular, checking in to see what you're doing, trying to drive people to TomTom Mag and Instagram and to, and everything you're doing, because I'm a big fan. So
thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. All right, that was Mindy Abovitz with Tom Tom Mag. Definitely want to check them out on Instagram Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch female drum instructors and GNC drum instructors across the world giving amazing drum lessons. So, all right, Mindy, thank you. You have a great Friday, girl.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Have fun.